Do you have any plans for Augur going forward in 2019? Any changes?
Look, I haven't been involved with Augur for years.
Oh, okay.
I'm an unofficial ambassador to the platform, but with the Ethereum's upgrade, current Constantinople upgrade, it means that Augur will be faster, it will be more useful, and companies are coming out on top of it to create third layer solutions that allowed Augur to be much more useful. Veal, which is backed by Sequoia and One Confirmation and Protocol Ventures, like some of the best funds in the world, just went live on the Ethereum mainnet, and it's built on top of Augur, allowing people to participate in prediction markets in a much more fluid manner. And so as we develop this ecosystem out, and as these second and third and even fourth layer solutions to blockchain technology become possible, the future of decentralization becomes much more promising. But it's a long haul. It's not like just creating Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter and going viral overnight. These technologies take a long time to build out.
Yep.
They take a much longer time to get people to use, because it's like Orwell's 1984, but it's 2019 and no one realizes it. And so getting people to realize how much privacy they've lost, how little sovereignty they have in their personal lives and in their online lives, it's a challenge. It's not like, oh, just post nudes and send them to your boyfriend, or like just go like show the world how cool you are on Instagram, or connect with your friends across the world on Facebook. It's a bit more difficult. It's like, be a free individual on the web, accumulate wealth on the web, be part of a new distributed economy that didn't previously exist. Those are much bigger ideas than the history of most innovation on the web in the past decade. I mean, as Peter Thiel once said, we imagined flying cars and instead we got 140 characters, It's, innovation happens in strange ways, but I've got a high degree of conviction that blockchain technology is going to be a driver of some of the most important innovations in human life over the next 50 years.
And that's interesting that you bring up that it is like its own economy. And that's super hard to explain to some people because they're so caught up in the fiat currency and that it's backed by the government. They don't realize exactly what you said, that they don't have the ability. If we wanted to go create money previously, we couldn't have gone and created our own money or our own microcurrency or even macro currency. Whereas at this point with blockchain technology, you can go and get an open source, any kind of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and you can make it your own and use it for your own purposes, which I think is pretty cool that we're getting to that point that this economy is about to take off. The New York Stock Exchange, ICE, is about to release their backed trading platform for institutional investors. So how do you feel about the markets in the near future? Because I know that right now there's that potential for institutional money to come in as soon as this backed exchange gets launched.
So we talk a lot about institutional money and enterprise instruments and things like backed, and I think they're great. It brings new capital flow. It gives new legitimacy to this technology. But what we have to be so careful of is like, look, I did not. Most of the people that were early in crypto when I first came in, they were like anti-government, anti-Federal Reserve. I didn't care as much about that. What I cared about was the banks. I thought the malfeasance of banks in the 21st century has been one of the greatest progenitors of evil known to man. And I was at Occupy Wall Street, and I saw that failed because we went and protested, and we protested around the world. We didn't accomplish anything. Instead of trying to protest the banks, why don't we let people be their own banks? And so that's the ethos that really drives me. Now, the introduction of backed and these products, they're good and they serve as a source of legitimacy, but what we have to be so careful about is not creating Wall Street 2.0.
Right. And I've been hearing a lot about that people are concerned that blockchain is becoming too centralized and that we're taking on too much human governance for the purpose of ease of use. Like recently there was the Ethereum Classic 51% hack. If it had been if it had more human governance, they could have reversed those transactions. So
well, No, they couldn't have, because the whole reason why Ethereum Classic existed was because they hated the rollback of the original Ethereum blockchain due to the DAO hacker. And so Ethereum Classic existed out of the belief that code was law, that if you found vulnerabilities in the code, that was a part of the system, and that the DAO hacker was perfectly entitled to the coins he had stolen. So they couldn't roll back.
Yeah.
But it shows the vulnerability of blockchain systems, especially when they are not the dominant chain with another chain that has the same hashing function, such as Ethereum versus Ethereum Classic. It just is too easy to attack these systems. But it's a nice reminder. I mean, I didn't own any ETC. I never believed in it. I actually liked the human governance perspective of Ethereum because they invoked it at the right point in time in the blockchain's history. However, it's a weighing act. You have to decide, when do you want the human component? When do you want the code and technological component? But these are very human systems. Blockchains are social systems. And without those social mechanisms for making them work, they don't ultimately function. Right. And so, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinions either way, but I am always inclined towards at least a degree of human governance. Like, I think Bitcoin could have been far more successful if there were better governance systems involved. But then again, it's been tried and true, and it's like this trusted digital store of value that exists for the first time in human history.
Right.
So, I take a very kind of even-handed view, and only time will tell what the right approach is. And I think different blockchains, different crypto assets, and different crypto projects will take different degrees of governance and custodian risk. Like Coinbase, I think, is a great platform, but it doesn't realize the true vision of a trustless financial system, but still is a necessary component to make this whole technology successful.
Right. I agree with you, and exactly what you said, that there's, just as we have one blockchain, we have another blockchain for different purposes, and just as they are all tools, if Bitcoin is a hammer, I don't use a hammer to screw in a screw. I'll get a screwdriver for that. So we can continuously make different blockchains to fill the purposes that we need. And that's one of the beautiful things about blockchain. So the last thing that we wanted to talk to you about was the conference, actually. And there was a little bit of controversy with your presentation. I don't know if you want to get into that at all,
Sure.
or if there's anything you want to make a comment about. But by all means.
Sure. I mean, so a year ago on stage at the conference, I was angry. I was pissed off. It's the height of the bull market. The industry had just become plagued by Lambo memes and get rich quick, like self-help gurus.
Ty Lopez.
Yeah, I actually like Ty. I went on his show, and I helped save dozens, if not hundreds of people money by warning very sternly against BitConnect. Because a lot of the same people that were following Ty were the people that were interested in things like BitConnect. And so I saved a lot of people money. But I'm very clear not to give financial advice. And look, I don't think Ty's approach was the right one for educating people in this space. But I was friends with him before I knew what his show was about. And I agreed to go on the show. It was good. But going back to the conference last year, I just, the whole culture of greed and wealth and not really talking about the technology and all the stupid ICOs had really pissed me off. And so I was kind of bashing the culture that had emerged. And there were so many scams at the conference. And over the past year, the more I've thought about what it takes to make crypto assets and blockchain technology successful, has evolved. To a certain extent, you need to have a strong cultural component to making this tech successful. Now, does it mean you talk about Lambos and yachts and getting rich? Maybe not, but you still need to interweave a relevant and relatable cultural narrative to this technology. And so showing how people get wealthy from this technology by building in this industry, by showing how this technology can be sexy, by having rappers rap about it, by having Instagram models like Graham about it. It's not a bad thing. I was talking about how I have all these rappers and DJs and models at my house. They're talking about the crypto castle, and they're all coming home with a copy of my magazine distributed, learning about blockchain technology. And I realized that in order for us to bridge any socioeconomic gaps, to create a tool for financial inclusion, you have to get, if the people that you want to include financially are going to adopt this technology, they have to hear about it from the people that they follow and relate to. And unfortunately, in contemporary America, in the world today, people look up to the Kardashians. They look up to rappers. They look up to pro athletes. And if those guys are talking about Bitcoin and saying, hey, you need to go learn about this. This is the future. This is something that everyone should be a part of. That's not a bad thing. And that was the point I was trying to make during my presentation that may have been lost on some people. But Bitcoin, blockchain technology needs to be sexy. Sure, we can go improve the clearing and settlement at Goldman Sachs. We can improve equities exchange and ExxonMobil supply chain, but that's not what I'm in this for. I want every single person in the world to have tools for their own financial empowerment. And that education begins with them becoming interested about this technology. And that means I have to get the Kardashians or Chance the Rapper or Jay-Z talking about Bitcoin. I'll fucking do it. Do I want that to be the approach I have to take? No, but that's the state of the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. The most powerful people in the world are the influencers. I mean, look who our president is. So fucking goober that's utterly unqualified to be president, but he's a reality TV star. He tweets in ways that people understand. People respect him for his wealth, his money, whatever's vapid reason they do. But if that's how you get to people, by going through popular culture and cultural narratives that people can relate to, then that's what we have to do. Does that require me to lose some integrity? I don't believe so. Maybe I have to lower some of my standards as a professional, which I think I had to do in that presentation. I went on wearing a fucking crazy captain suit with a crazy hat and had a crazy video with a bunch of rap music. And yeah, there was a scene where girls made out for 2 seconds. But if that gets people excited and people amped and people are talking about it, I've done my job, because it makes people feel like this is something that's cool, this is something I care about. And look, I don't care if I offend a bunch of 40, 50, 60-year-olds that are like, what the fuck did I just watch? If this is cool to young people, if this is something that excites young people, the generation that's actually going to build this technology and make it real, it's totally worth doing. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll regret it in 20 years, but I'm not usually one to have too many regrets.
Yeah, well, we personally, me and my friends, we thought that your presentation was interesting. It certainly appealed to our age group. And when Mo went on and kind of denounced it after, one thing that he said was that he wants that this community is supposed to be an inclusive community. So when he says an all-inclusive community, doesn't that mean the young people as well? There weren't just...
There was nothing exclusive about what I was saying. What I was trying to say is I'm trying to make an appeal to the broadest possible demographic. Mm-hmm. When I think about financial inclusion, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but you're talking about people that are disenfranchised by the current system. You start talking about fractional reserve banking or the Federal Reserve, and you lose them like that. But if you have rappers or people that they look up to in their own communities that they care about talking about this, cultural influencers within the culture that they live in, talking about this technology, that's how you get their attention. So in my view, this was as inclusive as you could be to the people that matter, the people I'm trying to reach, the people that can be empowered by this technology. If I offend some 60-year-old banker, I don't give a flying fuck.
Right.
And that was kind of my point right after the video played, was just look, if you don't get what I'm trying to show in this video, you're probably just too old.
Right.
And I guess that was somewhat exclusionary, but it was inclusive to the people that matter.
Right. Right, because it's not just a technological movement. It's also, as you said, a social movement. And if we don't create that social movement and create the awareness, then it's not going to take hold in the matter that we would like it to, and it's not going to benefit all these people in the world that could really use crypto and blockchain. So
yeah, and moreover, the people at that conference for the most part were not the people I was making a plea to. I was making a plea to the entrepreneurs there and say, think about that demographic. Think about the people that find this interesting for this reason. And yes, maybe that's not why you're in it. It's not why I'm in it. I don't think Bitcoin's sexy. I got in crypto to live in a mansion and be rich and have yacht parties. But if that's something that people aspire to in our culture, which they very much do, there's no reason not to appeal to that, as long as you include an educational narrative, a compelling ideological narrative that actually fits the reason for this technology existing. Mm-hmm. Because once people are starting to learn about Bitcoin and blockchain technology, it's like, look, you're the only person that's not profiting from your data. You're the only person that doesn't own your data. Yeah. You're the only person that has no control over the financial system that you live in, and this is what we're creating. So once you've gotten them hooked, once you've gotten someone that they care about telling them about that, and then they go down the rabbit hole, then you can actually talk about what matters. But you have to do something to get them hooked, or else Bitcoin will never be successful.
Yeah, and I see this movement moving, right now with the Facebook, all the information getting leaked, and now Google information's getting leaked, and people are starting to become more aware of exactly that their information is not really theirs anymore once they put it on the internet. So I think that all of this is going to really help spur the movement forward, and I'm excited to see how blockchain progresses the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will require a tremendous amount of nuance. Mm-hmm. In 2017, we saw the industry move way too far in the direction I'm talking to. No one was talking about the technology. No one was talking about the reason why this technology exists. No one was talking about decentralization and censorship resistance. Mm-hmm. But we made it. It was cool. It was hot. It was the most talked about subject in the world for a couple of short months. And that part wasn't necessarily wrong, but it just needs to be paired. That cultural narrative that makes the technology relatable needs to be paired with an educational narrative that makes people understand why this tech exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, you heard it here first. Jeremy Gardner. We appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you. Tune in next time. BitTips.